Congratulations, folks. We made it once again. Happy Friday, and welcome to another episode of Hornets Daily, your one-stop shop for all things Charlotte Hornets. As always, we're presented by the good people over at FanArc, and I'm your host, Vance Ballard, but you know by now you can call me VB. I want to thank everybody for watching, joining us today. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment down in the comments section. As you know, we enjoy watching you guys interact, hearing some of your thoughts on what's going on the program as we continue to grow and build this Hornets Daily family here on the show. Now, I mentioned it's a Friday. That's very good news. We do have some things floating around, a few things buzzing on the docket for today. The Hornets have made their first of 3 roster cuts. It's not going to come as much of a surprise as to who the first person to go was. We'll talk a little bit about that on the show today. We've got more trade targets floating around. It is that time of year. We'll go over the new names on that list today as well. And there are 3 areas in particular that we need to see improvement in from Charlotte this season. Despite regular season success, these areas need to make forward progress. There needs to be improvement made, and we'll discuss those today as well. And then we'll wrap the show up with Colin Keen's final marquee win. He even threw a bonus in there for us. So we've got a couple more games to discuss to wrap the program up. We'll do just that. But you know we don't beat around the bush here on Hornets Daily. We like to dive headfirst right into things, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, we've known for quite some time that the Hornets have too many guys on their roster. They had 18. They got to get the number down to 15. 3 must go. We've also known for some time now that DaQuan Jeffries is likely to be one of those 3, and that has become official. He is the first name to drop. He is the first domino to fall, however you want to put it. DaQuan Jeffries is no longer a member of the Charlotte Hornets. Now, this was one of the easier choices. It was not a surprise. It was probably, as I've seen it called on the internet, the worst kept secret in the NBA. But DaQuan is out nonetheless. He was already not on a guaranteed contract, so that just made it that much easier for the Hornets to go ahead and part ways with him. And again, I think it kind of makes sense, especially since there just isn't room for DaQuan on this roster with the logjam and abundance of talent that is now the guard room for the Hornets. The offseason additions, the rookies that were drafted, it just again kind of pushed DaQuan out of the way there. Didn't really have a spot for him, despite him scoring a career-high 20 points in a game again in March against the Hawks. He just, again, did not have a spot, did not have room on this reshaped roster. DaQuan averaged 6.7 points a game, 3 rebounds a game, and 22.8 minutes per game in 47 games with the Hornets last year. He did make 20 starts, so he is aware of what it takes to be a member of an NBA rotation. He knows how to carve out some minutes for himself, so I do think he should have really no trouble finding another job in the NBA. He'll probably be on a roster somewhere by the end of the year. It just won't be the Hornets. Again, he is the first of 3, so there are still 2 more names to go before the Hornets get that number down to 15. But I think we'll probably have to wait until after preseason and after training camp, after preseason, before at least one, maybe both of those next 2 names are announced as to who the Hornets are going to move on from. But we'll wait and see how that unfolds. Now, we've also talked quite a bit this week about potential trade targets for the Hornets, who guys they should keep their eye on as the season progresses. Earlier this week, we mentioned Walker Kessler, Anthony Simmons, and Mitchell Robinson as potential guys the Hornets could be paying close attention to. And now Rohan Brombat over at Clutch Points has 3 more names he's offered up that the Hornets should keep an eye on. Grady Dick is one of those, the second mention of him this week in as many days, as a matter of fact. Keegan Murray and Jaden McDaniels are the other 2 names on the list. Now, if you remember, we talked about the Hornets trading for Grady Dick yesterday, sending Nick Smith Jr. and a first-round pick out to Toronto in return for Grady Dick. If you watched along yesterday, I told you I'm not sure that Grady Dick is worth giving up a player and a first-round pick for. I know the Hornets have some assets in abundance right now, but there's really, in my opinion, no need to use a future first-round pick on a guy like Grady Dick. Although he is a sharpshooter, that I'm not taking that away from him. He is getting better on defense. He's shown signs of improvement on that end of the floor in each of the 2 years he's been in the league. And he also would add a lot of depth at the wing position for the Hornets. But I'm not sure he'd be an upgrade at that position over anybody that the Hornets currently have. So really, all he would be is depth, and I don't know that a first round draft pick is worth that for him. Again, as I said yesterday, if they did make a move for Grady Dick, I can see the vision. I understand adding the depth at the wing position. I'm just hopeful that they can manage to do it without losing Nick Smith Jr. and a first-round pick. Now, I know NSJ is probably on his way out anyway, but if they could hold on to that first-round asset, that would be nice as well. Keegan Murray was the other name we heard, was the second name we mentioned on the list. Brombat thinks the Hornets should be keeping a close eye on the Kings' two-way forwards early in the season, as if the Kings come out stumbling out of the block, they could be looking to fire sale everyone and restart and rebuild everything. We know they're in a bit of a tricky situation anyway. Now, this move would improve the Hornets' defense almost instantly. He is not the sharpshooter that Grady Dick is, that we were just talking about, but Keegan Murray is a legitimate wing defender in the NBA. He also knows how to score the basketball. He's not a 25, 30 points a night type guy, but he is not a crutch on the offensive end either. He would not drop off production when he's on the floor on that end of the ball. Importantly enough, he's also only 25 years old, so he would still fit seamlessly with the young core of the Hornets. He's the same age as LaMelo, and he could be moving into his prime with the rest of those guys if that is something Charlotte were to consider. Now, the thing about it is what the haul to get Keegan Murray would require is probably going to be a sizable one. I know I just talked about not wanting to give up a first-round pick for Grady Dick, but the Hornets would probably have to give up multiple picks, more than likely multiple first-round picks, as well as a player to get Keegan Murray, which is something I'm not sure. That would be up to them to weigh those options, but adding a guy like Keegan Murray would certainly show that the Hornets are more serious about winning right now than we originally anticipated, which would be a good thing, as he could also build for that future that Charles Lee and Jeff Peterson have continued to talk about all summer. Now, Jaden McDaniels was number 3, the last guy on this list. He's another option to bolster that Hornets defense, as he is a 6'9", elite defender that can pretty much guard all 5 positions. He can definitely guard 4, and if he has to guard a point guard for some period of time, he could do that as well. He is the most defensive-minded player that the Hornets that's been mentioned, really swirling around all summer, with the exception of maybe Mitchell Robinson. But adding a guy like Jaden McDaniels, going and getting him from the Timberwolves, would again bolster this Hornets defense, show that they are serious about winning right now. Not a major offensive threat is McDaniels, but off the catch and shoot, he can certainly knock down open three-pointers, and with a guy like LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller passing you the ball, getting a catch and shoot 3 is going to be highly likely within this Hornets roster. McDaniels would also fit perfectly with Charles Lee's defensive mindset and system. We know the importance, the priority that Charles Lee puts on the defensive end of the floor. Having a guy like Jaden McDaniels who shares that same mindset would go a long ways for the Hornets as well. Now, of course, again, McDaniels would also probably require a very sizable haul, but the T-Wolves are heavily invested elsewhere in guys like Anthony Edwards, Naz Reid now, so there is a potential that they could want to shed some of that contract money for McDaniels, and the Hornets could be in the right spot to acquire him, which, if that is a move the Hornets made, I think it would make them a much better team. They obviously, of course, would drastically improve on defense, which would be a huge step forwards, and McDaniels could even potentially bolster the shooting percentage that we know the Hornets struggled with a lot last year as well. So again, those are just 3 potential trade targets that Clutch Points has thrown out there that we'll keep an eye on for the Hornets going forwards this season. Another category of 3 here, if we're talking that same number, there's 3 areas of improvement that we need to see from the Hornets this season. We've talked a lot about the excitement, the optimism, and the hope coming into this season, as the young core is now established and there are building block pieces around them. Obviously still a couple of moves that could be made, but things seem to be falling into place for the Hornets And we know that right now they want to either, their direction they're heading is either a play-in team this year or even make the playoff without having to get in the play-in tournament altogether. And they have a real chance to take advantage of a weakened Eastern Conference to do so. Now, if none of that takes place, there are, as I mentioned, still areas the Hornets can improve on, and it'd be positive signs going forwards in the future. This season not be a complete wash. Zach Roberts, our guy over at Sports Illustrated, thinks that health, competitiveness, and defensive intensity are three areas that it's more important to improve in this season going forward. Two of these, I think, go hand in hand. Obviously, competitiveness and defensive intensity, they kind of match up together. They go one goes along with the other. And in all honesty, I think the Hornets, just on paper, have gotten more competitive as a team. They've also gotten better on the defensive end of the floor. And we know the 4 rookies drafted this summer, most of them were, or a lot of them were drafted in part because of their competitiveness. We've heard Charles Lee, Jeff Peterson say that over and over again, especially when they were drafted and they were doing their rookie press conferences. We heard the word competitive. We heard the competitive nature, competitiveness in all of the forms over and over again. So we know that part has been added to this Hornets roster. In addition to the rookies, Colin Sexton, Spencer Dinwiddie are proven competitors in this league, and so is Pat Connaughton. If he sticks around, he's also going to bring that competitive edge to this Hornets roster that it's been talked about they need so badly. The defensive intensity, obviously, those come as part of the competitiveness. While Colin Sexton, Spencer Dinwiddie, they're not locked down defenders by any means. There's never a shortage of effort or intensity on that end of the floor. And watching those veteran guys take their game up to step their game up to the next level in terms of defensive intensity should help young guys like LaMelo, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, Khan, Moussa Diabate. The list goes on and on. Should help all of those young guys take the learn from, watch what they are seeing and learn from that going forwards. They also step their defensive intensity up to another level, which would improve the entire team's effort and defensive numbers as well. We're obviously still waiting to see how the rookies hold up defensively, but if Summer League is any indication, they will adapt nicely and help improve that side of the floor for the Hornets this season as well. Health was the third thing that Roberts mentioned being somewhere the Hornets have to improve on, and in my opinion, it is probably the most important. Now, it's also the most out of their control. But if Charlotte can avoid the injury bug for what seems like the first time in forever, they'll have a real shot at achieving some of their goals this year. If LaMelo can stay healthy and stay on the floor for the majority of the season, with Brandon Miller as well as Trey Mann and Grant Williams and Josh Green all set to make their return to the court at some point this season, this roster could turn into something exciting, and they could, in fact, take those steps towards the playoffs that they're trying to take this year. The Hornets have added depth at most every position, center not included. We won't talk about that. We've done that enough this summer. And that should allow for the Hornets to better manage their health as well. Guys should be able to rotate and rest and not play 35, 40 minutes a night. LaMelo should be able to take some time and sit down and rest his body and not be forced to be Mr. Everything and on the floor all the time with the depth that's been added around him. Health is going to be key to the Hornets' success, not just this year, but in the future going forwards, and they have the young guys to develop around them if they can stay healthy and, of course, continue to up their competitiveness and defensive intensity as well. Those things are all going to be positive signs for the Hornets going forward. Now, we have talked this week about 4 marquee matchups from Colin Keene over at Sports Illustrated, and as he's written an article, again, featuring 5 games that the Hornets could potentially show up and win and put themselves on the national radar this season. Again, the first 4 that we talked about were the Lakers at home, the Thunder at home, going to Madison Square Garden, and going to Golden State to play the Warriors. Those 4 games could potentially be big for the Hornets if they can get a couple wins, 4 wins, 1 win, 3 wins, whatever it may be. Beating any of those teams is going to be a step in the right direction. And according to Keene, the 5th and, well, not final because he threw a bonus in there for us too, but according to Keene, the 5th game that is a marquee matchup or a chance for a statement win is January the 21st when the Cavs come to town to visit the Hornets. This one is probably the biggest one on this list because it is one of 3 nationally televised games, and it's the only time the Hornets are scheduled to make an appearance on ESPN this season. That, in addition to this being one of the best young teams in the Eastern Conference, the Cavaliers, that is, makes this a very, very interesting matchup for Charlotte. Another young team in the East, and this will be a good measuring stick for the Hornets if they can match up with the Cavaliers, if they can stay with them or even come out and get an upset victory at home. Then that should bode well, show good signs for the Hornets' young core as they're able to hang with and maybe even upset a young star-studded team here in the East. Showing up, getting a win, playing well against a team like that again could be a really good benchmark for where the Hornets sit right now, and it could also show that they are stepping and moving in the right direction quicker than we thought they were. Now, I told you Keene was going to throw a bonus game in there at us, and he did just that. He talks about when the Spurs come to Charlotte not long after the Cavaliers game. The Spurs come to Charlotte. Wemby and company also bring a nationally televised game with them, although this one is on Prime Video, is on Prime Video, so not technically TV, but I guess it still counts as the national audience will be able to view. Now, Wemby and company, they should also be a very good test for the young Hornets, as they too have a relatively young core around them. They've got Wemby to worry about, as well as De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, and all of the young guys they have added as well. So that should be a good matchup, a good test, backcourt and front court for the Hornets. And not only that, but every game featuring that French superstar Wemby will draw eyeballs, so it'll be another chance for the Hornets to show a new audience, a national audience, that they are for real about their improvement in the future, for real about changing the culture here, and it could really put them on the radar of a national audience that, hey, maybe this team is not in the bottom of the basement anymore, or in the basement of the NBA anymore. They are on the way up. Again, if Charlotte can have some success in these 5 or now 6 big games, they can really show the rest of the league and the NBA media as well that this rebuild is serious. Charles Lee, Jeff Peterson, and company they mean what they say, and they do have this team going in the right direction, and they are trying to become forces to be reckoned with in the Eastern Conference. Now, again, that part is probably still a ways away, being a real-life contender, being someone that is taken serious as a threat to make it deep into the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. We're still probably a little bit away from that, but this new reshaped roster, this young core, and these rookies that are coming in as well can really take the next steps this season to show that the Hornets are serious about their improvement and about their future, and that is what's going to be the most exciting thing to watch as this regular season unfolds. That's going to do it for the show today, folks. As always, thank you for watching. Enjoy your weekend. Please hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and a comment down in the comments section. We'll see you right back here on Monday for another episode of Hornets Daily.